No intro, just getting into it.
My daughter's missing. I guess she never made it to school this morning. How old's your daughter? She's 10.
This is not like her. That pounded into her head since she was little not to get into cars with strangers.
I need you to come to my house. My son wants to turn himself in.
The second I pulled her into my car, I knew she was dead. Random place, random time, random everything. I am a monster for what I've done.
A quiet Colorado community is stunned when a 10-year-old girl vanishes on her.
Oh my god, I know what this is. This is the Jessica Ridgway thing. I remember this.
Her way to school. Chilling discoveries over the coming weeks turn a desperate search into a grim homicide investigation until the shocking moment a teenager confesses to police. The only problem is the critical evidence that says he had nothing to do with it.
I have proof that I did it. There is no other question. You just have to send a squad car, and I will answer all the questions that you want to ask.
The following report is based on official police records, and most of the footage has never been seen before until now.
I remember
on the
all of
afternoon
this.
October 5th, 2012, a desperate mother in Westminster, Colorado calls 911 to make a heartbreaking report.
My daughter's missing. I guess she never made it to school this morning. How old's your daughter? She's 10. Okay. Could she be with a father or anything like that? No, her father's in Missouri. When did you last see her? This morning when she left at 8:30. Did she walk? Yeah. And I checked her friend's house that she walked and they're not answering the doors. Okay. She doesn't have a phone or anything like that? No. Okay. Does she have a bike? Yeah, but she doesn't ride it to school. Well, have you looked? Have I worked? Looked for her. Have you looked for her anywhere? I went up to the school and my sister's walking up to the school the same way that she walks with her dog. And I went to her friend's house and kind of looked around at the park that's down the street. There's no kids there. Okay. What's your daughter's name? Jessica Ridgway.
News of 10-year-old Jessica's disappearance will soon grip the entire community, but in the early first hours, it's the family that police need to speak to, including the other two residents of the house, Jessica's aunt and her grandmother.
How are you guys holding up?
I don't know. I don't think her mother's doing well. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
She never does things like this. She's a good kid.
Yeah.
Jessica's not really one to want to even run away. She's pretty a homebody.
She pretty, okay, she's, I know, kind of a homebody, but is she like pretty adventurous too?
I don't think so.
According to Jessica's mother, she packed her off for school that morning at 8:30, bundled up for the snow, and went to bed after working the night shift. It wasn't until approximately 4 o'clock this afternoon that she woke up to see that Witt Elementary had called with an unsettling message. Jessica never showed up to school that day.
And then I got in the car and I drove over to her house and knocked on the door and banged on the door and nobody answered. So I drove up to the school and went inside and saw that the office was closed. So I turned around and left and drove back to her house and pounded on the door again, rang the doorbell. Nobody answered. And so I drove home and then I called 911.
Does she know like the house phone number?
She knows our house phone number by heart.
Does she?
She's not real
Which is a
clear on
good
her
thing.
address sometimes. So
Does
she transposes the numbers.
Oh, does she? Does she know like your guys' cell phones at all, or just the house
Just
phone?
the house phone.
Where do you think
I don't know. I have no
Jessica
idea.
could be?
I don't know. This is not like her. That pounded into her head since she was little not to get into cars with strangers, so I don't think she would do that. I mean, in my mind, I think maybe she started off towards school, she missed so she went heading on to the school too. She got to school late, maybe the door was locked, so she decided to go back home, but I don't know how she would go back home, and obviously she didn't.
The Ridgway family insists that it would be wildly out of character for Jessica to simply take off, and the lack of answers invites darker possibilities.
I've just been so afraid this is going to happen sometime, and now it did.
So why were you afraid this was going to happen?
I just always worried that somebody would take one of my children or my grandchildren. I mean, I worried about the girls when they were little too. And then walk to school. I just worried.
So that's what you think has happened here?
I don't know. I mean, that's the worst case scenario for me. I'm hoping that she's lost or in a culvert or someplace and can't get out and she's hurt and cold. My mother's convinced she's under some bush somewhere. I'm stymied. I mean, I'm hoping nobody abducted her. I mean, that fear's there that somebody abducted her because she just disappeared and she never does this.
God forbid someone grabbed her or something, what do you think her reaction would be?
I think her reaction, if it's somebody she didn't know and they just grabbed her, she would start screaming.
Would she?
Okay, good.
In their determination to bring up anything that might be relevant, the family mentioned some recent troubling incidents in the area.
One day she said there were some people standing at the park that were just like standing there by the tree, and it made her nervous, so she came home. It was like 3 weeks ago. She said they were just standing there like this by the tree.
At the beginning of the school year, or maybe it was the end of last year, they had that suspicious person up at the Kettner Lake, and we had talked about making sure never to talk to anybody you don't know, and kind of usually reinforce it about every couple weeks, every month.
What do you remember about that suspicious person?
Don't remember. It was, they sent home like a letter saying there was.
The school did?
Yeah.
In May, a woman reported being attacked by a man wielding a chemical-scented rag while jogging at the nearby lake. Though she fought him off successfully, he fled the scene, and the police have yet to make an arrest.
This one I remember
Hey,
too.
so these are some pictures of a girl at 120th and Washington in a Circle K gas station.
Okay.
It looks similar to Jessica. I can't really tell. Unfortunately, the picture isn't real clear. Do you mind just looking at these and tell me what you think here? I know those are bad pictures, but unfortunately, that's kind of the best we can do.
It looks similar. And that's kind of how she keeps her hair.
What's kind of your initial reaction when you saw those?
I would say it's closer to being her than not being her.
But you didn't think that that was your daughter when you first saw him?
Not right off the bat.
Unfortunately, the lack of solid information leaves Jessica's family reeling.
Oh, please God, please God, please God, please God. God, what was she doing? Can we please find her? Can we please find her? Can we please find her?
The search for Jessica Ridgway becomes the top priority of the Westminster Police Department, but the little girl is nowhere to be found. 2 days after her disappearance, however, a man in neighboring Superior, Colorado, finds a backpack on the street outside his house that matches the description her mother gave police.
It's gray with pink flowers on it.
Inside the backpack are Jessica's distinct purple glasses, school books, clothes that smell of urine, and a water bottle that says Jessica Ridgway on
They
the
never
side.
said it smelled like
The
urine. That I
finding
don't
is
think
disturbing,
they did
but it's not
anyway.
until October 10th, 3 days later, that several sanitation workers happen upon a far more horrifying discovery while picking up trash on the side of the road, miles away from where Jessica was last seen.
And I just seen that black bag. I said, well, that must have, fell out of somebody's pickup or blew out of somebody's pickup or something. Our job's to pick up the trash. Well, I walked over, picked it up. Herman was maybe 30 feet from me, west of me. And I said, what the hell? It was 30, 40 pounds, but it's only that deep, and it's a bag that this tall. So what could be so heavy and so small?
He was like, man, I went to pick this bag up. And he was like, it didn't feel right. So we, started looking at it. And my friend Bobby, he gets like the broom handle and he starts, poking at it. He didn't touch it, but he starts poking at it. He's like, man, I think that's something.
Did it look like that bag had been out there for quite a while, or?
No, because me and Herman both said, when a bag's been out there for even a couple of days, it's got dust on it, It's got dirt, it's
Especially
got
with
dew
open
in the
land.
morning. Them look brand new out the box in the ditch.
It was gooey on the bottom of the bag, like liquid was in there. But the sound of it, the top of the bag sounded hollow.
I opened it, and I thought, there's another identical bag, only it's rolled up tight in the bottom. And it's the same bag, but rolled up. I said, this ain't right. Something just ain't right. This isn't trash. And he asked Herman, got a knife? I said, I don't have a knife. And Herman had a box cutter knife, the one with the razor blade. Mm-hmm. And he took it, slit it open, and that's when we just seen it.
And then that's when we see, like, the torso. And then I seen, like, if the arm was missing, the bone that was sticking out. And then it was also split right down the middle, but all the insides were missing. So my friend Bobby was like, man, I think I'm going to call the police.
2 days later, the Westminster Police Department confirms that the remains indeed belong to Jessica Ridgway.
How can someone
turning
do
the
this,
search for the
right?
missing
Like,
girl
what's
into
going
a
in your
homicide
head
investigation.
when you're doing
the
this?
news shocks the community, even as the discovery leaves a lasting scar on the men who found it.
I don't want to see another black trash bag. Dude, I'm not even going to go down this street, ever. But just seeing there no head, no arms, and no legs. It had to be hard. It had to be hard for the person that even did it.
The police find something else in the bag, a cross with strange markings carved into the side of the wood. And with samples they've obtained from Jessica's remains and backpack, they develop a DNA profile of an unknown suspect. But before they can identify a match, an unexpected phone call to the FBI sends the investigation in a new direction.
Why did you initially contact the FBI?
Well, because I really felt like I knew who had done it.
Who done what?
Who had abducted Jessica Ridgway.
Okay, and why did you feel that?
I don't know. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but I think some of it was really intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mom, first of all. I'm kind of a paranoid type of person, I guess I would say. Well, not really paranoid, I guess. I'm just aware of my surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that you can tell somebody by their eyes, you know.
The woman says she's grown
she's not
suspicious
wrong.
about the teenage son of her neighbor, Mindy.
And Mindy had texted me in July. She says, Austin graduated
see.
today. I said earlier or something. And she said, yeah. She says he dropped out of high school, took his GED, and he's going to school in the fall to become a mortician. And I thought, what kind of kid drops out of high school to go to be a mortician? And the cross thing was a big part because that's something that he wore a lot of that kind of jewelry, like the hemp necklaces and rope necklaces and stuff with the crosses on them. Mindy had posted on her thing this picture of this project that he had done. And she said, I guess it was something that was at the Museum of Nature and Science or something like that. And she says, I've got it on my phone. What's the fastest, least messy way to dispose of a body? And she says, Austin knows.
That's
The
crazy.
FBI is already canvassing the neighborhood, and when they receive the woman's tip, they quickly interview Austin and collect his DNA sample.
And then she texts me right after and said, Austin just gave his DNA to the FBI. This is getting crazy. And they told me, play stupid.
Well, that's at 19.
Uh-huh. And I said, what? And she says, at least they can rule him out now. Should be the end of it for us.
Unfortunately for the investigation, this is exactly what happens. Austin Sigg's DNA is sent to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and like the hundreds of other samples that have been collected, it's not a match for the evidence. It's another dead end, and the hope of catching Jessica's killer grows dimmer than ever. That is, until the evening of October 23rd, 18 days after the little girl's disappearance, when a 911 call changes everything.
Hi, I need you to come to my house. My son wants to turn himself in for the Jessica Ridgway murder.
And what's going on there, ma'am?
You not hear me? He just confessed to killing her.
I know. I want you to tell me what's going on. Can you tell me exactly what he said?
That he did it, and he gave me details, and her remains are in my house.
Did you
Crazy.
see them?
No.
Is he there with you?
Yes.
Is he cooperative?
Yes.
How old is your son?
17.
What is your...
Not to get on this 911 operator's case, but why does he sound like she's not impressed by the fact this woman is calling? Is he there? Is he cooperative? Like, lady, she just said, I understand you're asking questions, but don't sound so unimpressed. Be like, well, is he there right now? Like, be a little bit more into her than just going, so what does he do? Like, what are we doing?
Name?
Austin Sigg.
In a bizarre twist, the very individual that investigators just cleared is now apparently confessing to the murder, and the 911 operator strives to get more information.
Do you think that Austin would
It's just
talk
weird
to
that
me?
she would say it like
Will you
that.
talk to-
Or maybe she talks like that, I don't know.
Okay. Hello. Is this Austin?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Austin. This is Molly at the Westminster Police Department. Hi.
Maybe she does
Can you
talk
tell
like
me a
that.
little bit about what's going on right now, or how you're feeling, or how did this come about?
I don't exactly get why you're asking these questions. I murdered Jessica Ridgway.
Okay.
I have proof that I did it. There is no other question. You just have to send a squad car something down here, and I will answer all the questions that you want to ask, or anyone wants to ask of me as soon as you gotta get down here.
Okay.
So maybe he
The
got
teenager
nervous.
will more than live up to this promise as the evening unfolds, but for now, the operator has to determine
living
what
with
kind
guilt.
of situation the police will be walking into.
Do you have any weapons in your house?
I do, but I plan to use absolutely none of them. I will be sitting in my front room when the police officer arrives. Or I'll be right next to my mother. I have knives in my room, and we own a few guns, but I'm giving myself up completely. There will be no resistance whatsoever.
All right, Austin. Well, like just like I said, I am sending you a police officer, okay? But you have to understand that you know, we take this stuff very seriously, and like I said, you did the right thing by calling.
I would have to hope that you would take this serious, because this is important.
I absolutely am taking this seriously.
Can you please hurry up? I need to call his dad.
Ma'am, I understand you want to call your husband, and I'm sorry, but I would like to keep you guys on the phone just until the officers get a little bit closer.
Well, how far are they?
They're going to be there in just a few minutes. Can I get
We can stay on the line, but do you have to keep asking questions?
Okay, no, I don't. Mom, can I just get your name?
My name is Mindy.
And Austin told me he's taking like classes at community college?
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of classes is he taking?
To be a mortician.
He wants to be a mortician? Okay.
The operator tries to keep Austin's mom, Mindy, calm.
I mean,
as
it's the only
police
thing you
make their
can do
way
right
to
now,
the
right?
address.
Keep her calm.
Mindy, take a couple deep breaths for me, okay?
Yep.
Is Austin still there with you?
Yeah, I'm hugging him.
Okay, you guys are hugging? Okay, you definitely did the right thing. You told me when the officers get there, they're coming to your front door.
I know.
Are you with the officers or what?
No, they're not here.
Okay. Is Austin still calm? How is his demeanor right now?
Hurry up.
I'm trying to get them to hurry, okay? Like I said, we're getting officers there as quickly as we can. Is Austin okay with you right now?
Yeah, he's just getting really anxious, and so am I.
I think he was having guilt. I think he had guilt, for sure.
They're coming up.
Police arrive at the SIG residence and immediately take the 17-year-old into custody.
Hey, Austin. I'm Oscar Stetson. What's up? Anybody else in the house? Hey, Austin. My name is AC, okay? Right now, I'm just going to put you in cuffs, okay? Do you have any weapons on you? Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think that this will anyway bring any comfort to the Ridgway family whatsoever?
He
by
felt
seeing
guilt,
me
and he wanted to
brought to justice at all?
seek comfort for the other
I don't know
family.
the family, so, but I would say in my experience, people like.
He wanted, yeah, I was gonna say closure.
This is all I can give, so I'll have to hope it'll do.
If Austin is to be believed, the Westminster police finally have their suspect. The only issue is whether or not they should believe him at all.
So in your experience, how long does it usually take to get the DNA test back?
I would expect somewhere between 9 and 36 hours, somewhere.
Wow. They came Friday night, the FBI, and took swab,
Okay.
DNA swab.
Well, keep in mind, they're not open on the weekends.
Gotta love it, right?
Or the government.
That just seems wrong, because, I mean,
when you're hunting down someone like me,
But he's talking like he's done it
want those
before.
results back as quickly as possible and then close on the weekend. It's a relatively automated process.
At the police station, detectives first speak to Austin's mother, Mindy, who seems scarcely able to believe the nightmare unfolding before her eyes.
I was still in a towel, and I don't remember why I sat on the bed. I'm sure I was telling him something unrelated, and he said, Mom, I gotta tell you something.
This is while he's still in the bed? Mm-hmm. And you're sitting there beside him? Mm-hmm. Can you tell me what he told you?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's really hard to just to deal with this whole thing right now. I understand this whole concept of this is pretty hard.
I want to help. I'm not sure I can remember. He had that look, that horrible look. I think the first thing he said was, I'm a monster.
If the detectives are going to get to the truth of this confession, though, the details will have to come from Austin himself.
Can we start with just the bottom line is what did you tell your mom?
That I murdered Jessica Ridgway and that I was responsible for her abduction and her death.
Can you talk to me now a little bit about what happened in this whole situation?
What was going through his head when
Can we go ahead and start back on October 5th, which was a Friday morning?
I just remember I wound up finding a place over in her neighborhood where I could park where a car really wouldn't be noticed by anyone, just somewhere where all the fences were. Because, while I was driving, I was just kind of looking. And I saw her and I found the place to park and I parked and I waited. When she walked by, I grabbed her.
Were you standing by your car when you did that?
I was inside my car in the back seat. Because I had parked and I had hopped into the back seat and I grabbed her and I pulled her in.
Okay. Do you remember where that was at?
Not exactly. It was random place, random time, random everything.
Well, when you went out that morning, Friday morning, which was early in the morning, and you drove over to Jessica's neighborhood, what were you planning on doing that day?
I had the intent of picking up some
So he had premeditated all this.
Female that came across where I was. That it didn't matter what time, where, it did just anything.
So you were out, for a better word, hunting?
Yeah, that's the only word I can think of.
So when you initially took Jessica, you were actually in the back seat of your car?
Yes, and then I zip tied her hands and her feet.
Did she come close enough to the car that you didn't have to get out?
Yeah, basically. I had to take one step, and that was it.
What was she doing when you did that? What was her emotional state?
She wasn't paying attention. She was messing with a snowball in her hands, and she actually still had the snowball in her hands when I was driving around. And
well, what was her emotional state once you actually got her into the car and zipped tied your arms?
She was terrified.
What was she saying?
She was scared. She wanted to know if she was going to see her mom again. She wanted to know who I was, where we were going. And I wouldn't answer all of her questions, but I would answer some of them, like if she'd see her mom again, and I would lie to her and I would tell her that she would. And I would tell her that she'd be okay, and one of her concerns was getting back to school on time because her mom and her teacher would be angry at her, and I told her not to.
So he's got a psychological issue, it seems, right?
Austin is describing an abduction that has been front page news in Colorado for the better part of a month. Detectives sit down with his girlfriend Anna to see if the subject ever came up between them.
We're here about Jessica. Well, tell me what you saw on the news about Jessica.
I just saw that she heard about her getting kidnapped and then finding the body, and that's about where I left off.
Okay. When was the last time you saw Austin?
Last week, Wednesday.
Last week, Wednesday. And have you and Austin talked about Jessica at all?
Not really.
What have you mentioned? You said not really. What have you mentioned about?
We were talking about how We couldn't think of how anybody could do that to somebody. That's pretty much it.
But Anna doesn't yet know that her boyfriend has admitted to his involvement in this horrific crime, and she certainly doesn't know the chilling story he's sharing with the detectives.
So after so long of driving around, I found a place to park where I checked her backpack and she had no cell phone or anything. And after that, I hopped back in the front of my car and I drove back to my house. And I hopped out of the car and I opened the garage door and I drove in and I shut the garage door behind me. Let her out of the back of my car. I undid the zip ties. And I took her up to my room. And I sat her in my room and I played Netflix on the TV for her. It's either like Panda or something. I don't remember. That's some cartoon. I just kind of sat there.
Austin tells the police that he left the room at this point to get Jessica a Coke and a microwave pizza to eat.
Which means he almost didn't want to do it.
Yes. Would you leave her there?
Yeah.
Could she have gotten out? I mean, would you have seen her leave or heard her leave?
If she would have went by the window, then no. But any other way, then probably, yeah.
So this is on the second floor, right?
Yeah.
It's got a two-story home.
No, and she didn't put up any fight at all.
Austin's grim confession takes place against the backdrop of the conflicting DNA evidence, and his grandmother appears to think something else may be going on here.
Do you know why you're here?
Because there is my grandson seems to believe that he committed a murder.
Okay, and your grand...
That's what I understand. This is horrible. This is the most horrible thing. There's got to be something wrong. He's not this person.
Something.
Well, maybe he made it up.
Just in his mind
I've
made him
heard,
do this, but why?
Talking about watching the cop shows and stuff, the cold cases, and
Like, why do people do what they do, right?
false confessions to be, just to get to be famous.
Sure.
Oh, maybe he did that. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
But despite the DNA dead end and testimonials from those who know him, Austin paints a vivid picture of Jessica's final moments that feels terrifyingly real.
After sitting there for probably an hour, maybe, I don't exactly remember, time kind of started feeling weird then. After that, I asked her to change into a pair of a shirt and shorts that I had, and I let her go into the bathroom to do that, and she came back, told her to put all her clothes in her backpack and get her backpack ready and everything to go back. And then after she was done with that, I walked up behind her.
Oh my gosh.
And I initially tried to use zip ties to strangle her, but those cut into my skin and didn't really work and weren't doing a job that weren't doing it. So I immediately, just without even removing the zip ties or anything, I immediately switched over to just strangling her with my hands.
How did you use the zip ties?
They weren't quite long enough, so I daisy chained two of them together and I wrapped them around her neck and I pulled it tight, but it inevitably tore through my hand and wound up breaking.
You actually have a mark on one of your fingers. Is that from the zip tie?
Both, yes, on both hands. There's one.
On both of the index fingers right here, you have a little mark where those were from pulling on the zip ties?
Yes. When I choked her, I closed my eyes and I just said, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
He feels so much remorse.
After she was dead. After she was, what I hope was dead, I put her into my bathtub face down and I made sure to fill it up with water to make sure that she was definitely dead. And then I cut off the clothes and threw them in a trash bag, and then I sat and I cried.
According to Austin, that was only the beginning of an unspeakably dark morning.
Why did you feel like you had to take her arms and legs and her head off?
Because I felt like it was the only way that I could conceivably hide the body, as if it was in more manageable pieces, I guess.
It's a stupid question, but why are you trying to hide the body?
As soon as I realized I was past the point of no return, it's either get away with it or go to jail forever, possibly be executed.
But he felt guilt, which is why he called the police.
I don't know what
his
my
mom
future's gonna
called the
be.
police.
You're fully understanding the consequences of what you've done, and that's why you're dismembering the body.
No, that's not why. That's why I turned myself in. It's because I understand the consequences of what I'm doing. The dismemberment was from that forensic science class. We had learned about serial killers, stuff like that, and the successful ones always seemed to be the ones who were able to make the body disappear completely. My main goal initially was to make it so that there was no trace, no nothing, where it was just disappear off the face of the planet.
Is that something you thought about before when you were thinking about doing that to someone?
No.
How would you thought you were going to do that?
I figured with just the utility knife, because I know that you can go around the human skeleton fits together kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. You get the right spot, they come apart.
He tells the detectives that he dismembered Jessica's body using the utility knife and an electric saw from the garage before stuffing her parts into several garbage bags and hiding them in a backyard pool shed. A couple of days later,
It's funny because when we had heard about this and how it was done, he had actually put, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way, shape, or form to the family or anything, but he had put her body, Jessica's body, into the floorboards underneath his bed, is what everyone had known. But I guess this video is saying that it was in his shed after all that. But we had heard Jessica's body was underneath the floorboard of his room underneath his bed.
Effort to direct the search for Jessica to a different area, he left her backpack in a distant neighborhood.
I felt like that didn't work, and so I decided the day the torso part was found, I decided to take that specifically out of the pool house, and I brought it back up and I re-cleaned it and double bagged it and tried to make sure that I used gloves and everything. And I went and I just drove until I found a good spot where I could
just
park for a minute or two, hop out.
Thought about everything at this point,
dump it off the side of the road.
but felt remorse at the
Because I
same
felt
time.
like
It seems
that was the biggest piece that I had to get rid of.
like just something came over him.
I don't know, the worst.
But there was also a wooden cross found in that bag, an item Austin says he included as part of his devious ploy.
I was just walking throughout, and I walked into my room and I happened to see it just sitting there, so I cut it off of its rope and I just made some random engravings on it with the blade just to, in case.
What markings did you make on it?
Well, initially I was gonna go for something cryptic like 666 or something that would be very clear that it was religious and demonic or something to get them on that.
Did you think that would distract them from you?
Right. If they're looking for a religious fanatic, I'm not one.
Okay.
And I mean, that's what I was trying to do, is make it so I didn't fit the bill.
Okay. Do you remember what the markings looked like that you did put on it?
I put the 3 little etchings on the front, and then on the back I think I scribbled a Z or an S, think it was like an S, or just kind of back and forth.
And what did you use to carve it with?
The same utility blade.
Gosh.
That you'd used when you'd with the body?
Yeah.
Okay.
Austin says that he spent the week...
You know, I'm not trying to give him credit. I'm not trying to credit him for anything. But had he not done this, had he finished his school, had he gone and done whatever he wanted to do, he actually could have done well in forensic science, it seems. He could have gone into the insides of, like, he could have thought what people were thinking and whatnot. He actually could have solved a whole bunch of cases, in my opinion. But it's unfortunate that he just took this random turn, did what he did, and has now ended up where he has ended up. He basically was going around the track in the right way, and then he just hit a corner and he goes, well, I don't want to keep going on that track. He turns off, realizes this track is no fun. He tries to come back in and continue that track, only to realize that it's not the same anymore. If that makes sense.
Weeks since the murder, racked with anxiety, though it appears that his girlfriend didn't notice.
What about his attitude? How has he been in the last month? Is there anything different about him?
Not at all.
Okay. Does he have any injuries on him?
Mm-mm.
You haven't seen any injuries? What about, has he seemed happier than usual or sadder than usual or anything like that? Have you noticed anything different about him?
Mm-mm.
It seems that even those closest to Austin noticed nothing out of the ordinary, but then again, perhaps the young suspect was practiced in maintaining an innocent facade.
Does anything else happen before today?
One thing I had forgotten about until the media had brought it back up is the incident at Kettner Lake.
Was that him
The
too?
young lady was attacked. That was me as well.
No way, that I don't
When you talk
know.
about the
I didn't know
Kettner
that.
Lake incident, do you remember what you did on that case?
I remember I made chloroform. I parked my car there and I just kind of went and took a few laps around they have a little walking path that you can walk around, and I waited for what I felt was an opportune time, and I just walked past the lady who was just walking by herself, and then
If
I turned around and I
he
tried
tries to
grab
describe the
her,
clothes she had on,
and she knocked me to the ground, and I don't remember after that. I remember going blank again.
so he's having
Austin
episodes of
says
some
that despite
sort.
his chloroform-soaked rag, the woman was able to fight him off.
Right?
But his involvement in this earlier incident is made all the more surreal and heartbreaking.
He's
by the
having
fact
some
that
sort of
Jessica's mom
episode.
mentioned it in her first sit-down with the police.
What was your purpose in grabbing this girl?
I don't honestly know. My intents were probably to do the same thing to her what I did Jessica.
While the police have yet to match the DNA from Jessica's remains to Austin or any other suspect, they have linked it to the Kettner Lake attack. Despite the lab results, it looks increasingly likely that the young man before them is responsible for both. And if this violence seems to have come from nowhere, a closer look reveals that there were signs along the way.
What's that disorder where you show one personality and then like at some point it's a switch up? There's a personality for it. There is a certain disorder. I don't know what it is, but maybe that's what he's got going on, right? Like he doesn't realize that's what he's doing.
He had to go into therapy because
Austin?
Yeah,
Okay.
Austin. His mother found
Multiple
out
personality
that
disorder or
he
something like that?
was when he was about 13, 14, something like that. They call it addicted to pornography.
Oh.
And
At
I'm
age
going,
13 or 14, you said?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm going, isn't this kind of normal for guys? You know?
But investigators will quickly learn that there was nothing normal about the content Austin was consuming.
Oh no.
Describe to me what it is that you've seen.
Like bondage, like forced acts. I've seen like dismemberment. I've seen everything.
It traumatized him.
I mean, force, probably. I mean,
traumatized him.
You talking about beating someone, or are you talking?
Being able to control what they do.
With this disturbing obsession hanging in the background, police are concerned that there may be more to Austin's nauseating story than he's admitted thus far.
Well, at some point, you must have been thinking about having sex with this young girl, right?
I did, but...
Oh my gosh.
I mean... She was a 10-year-old girl. I couldn't imagine. It was probably the first time that I haven't ever had a sex drive in my life that I can remember.
Well, why did you decide at that point that you had to kill her?
Because I felt like if I didn't, there was no way I could ever get away with it.
Get away with what?
Abducting a small child. I was so... I think the second I pulled her into my car, I knew she was dead.
If other things happened with her body, would that make this worse in your mind?
I think that, yeah, probably, yeah.
It's only at this point that the detectives bring up a detail that was never released to the public. The wooden cross wasn't just left with Jessica's remains. It had been inserted into her. Austin ultimately admits to this desecration, though he denies violating her in any other way before her death.
How long have you been thinking about doing something like this to a young girl?
I would have to say...
Don't say it, please. Don't say years.
And it wasn't even... nothing to do with her age or anything. It was an easy target.
He says years. That's even more messed up.
All I could think of was, oh God, what have I done?
And what did you answer yourself?
I couldn't.
Did you know what you did was wrong?
I did, but I couldn't. I couldn't believe that I had done what I had just done.
What do you think society would think about what you did to Jessica?
I don't know about society because I've never really been that great with it, but I know that personally, I am a monster for what I've done. I couldn't find a better word to describe evil than exactly what
Did you say evil?
Evil, yes.
Austin has admitted responsibility for one of the most shocking murders in Colorado history, but a piece of the puzzle remains missing. That piece is soon found when investigators realize that Austin's original DNA sample to the FBI was lost, and his name was cleared in error. When they test a fresh swab, the result is a match.
How did the
but even
FBI
without
lose that
match, the evidence is impossible to deny.
Let's go back to Jessica again. What you talked about the torso part.
Yeah.
What happens to the rest? What do you do with everything else?
Everything else, I moved then from out in the backyard because I felt like they had cadaver dogs or search dogs or something combing our area. And so I moved all of those pieces from in the back of where the pool house was to where the detectives found them tonight.
Where was that at?
Under my house, under crawl space.
The remaining pieces that are in your house, what do you think is still in your crawl space?
The skull, the head, the arms, and legs.
In a statement in court the following year, the judge overseeing the case said, quote, "Evil is apparently real. It was present in our community on October 5th, 2012. On that day, its name was Austin Sigg." Austin pled guilty to 15 charges relating to the kidnapping, murder, and sexual assault of Jessica Ridgway, the attempted abduction of the jogger at Kettner Lake, and possession of explicit material involving minors. Although being 17 at the time of the crime spared him for the death penalty, the judge sentenced him to life in prison for the charge of first-degree murder, and at least another 80 consecutive years for the additional charges, ensuring that he will never be released. 1 year after her death, the Westminster community honored the young girl with the dedication of Jessica Ridgway Memorial Park, just down the street from where she lived. The dominant themes of the park are purple and green, Jessica's favorite colors.
It's so weird how we as people can just take the wrong turn. And this guy was so smart and he just took the wrong turn and did the worst thing possible. I mean, literal goosebumps because it hearing all this unravel than what you hear on the news or the media and whatnot. It's horrifying. It's scary what's out there. Scary what people can become, what can trigger people to become after that. This guy got addicted to something at a really bad age. Or not a bad age, but a young age. And it kind of just stuck with him for a long time, and he just couldn't shake it. And I'm not trying to sympathize with him or anything, but it's like when you're addicted to smoking, right? Once you're on it, it's hard to come off of it. So he got addicted to something that was just killing him at the end of the day, and in spite of that, he did what he did. It's just heartbreaking, man.